How are you today?
Big Bad Andrew, what are you doing?
Not too much. How are you?
Oh, I'm just hanging out waiting for you because they said you're like the highlight of my day today.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to chat with you. I spoke to you a number of years ago when you were here in Toronto at Fan Expo, so it's great to chat again.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the time once more.
Well, I'm going to start with the basics. Going back to when you first designed Venom, do you recall what was driving your design? Like, what made you pick this particular look?
Yes, I do, because it's the same thing that drives all my designs. One, should look cool as hell, right? So let's just you start at that, like cool. I think sometimes big corporations underestimate the cool factor, right? You can because I got a toy company and I go up against Fortune 500 companies, Hasbro, Mattel all day long, and they've got all the big brands. I can still sell my toys because I just try to make them look cooler. So you try to come up with something cool. So to me at that point, it was like, well, I got to get that costume off Peter Parker because I didn't want to draw it on Spider-Man. I thought that would be silly. So I gave him these drawings going, hey, it's like the costume's alive. So that means it must be an alien. And an alien is a monster. And monsters mean super cool, right? So I just sort of got there a couple easy steps. The second piece of it was that it was intentional that I made him big. That was for two reasons. One, I just think big imposing people, just like you meet them anywhere in life, have a presence about them. Maybe I had a bit of a bias. I was coming off a run on the Hulk. But more importantly, on a geek level, so now I'm going to get geeky on you, that Spider-Man, and I knew I was going to be drawing Spider-Man, but Spider-Man like has to fight his villain every month. And most of them, Electro, Mysterio, Craven, even Green Goblin to some extent, like they're all humans, right? They're all just, here's Peter Parker, here's the villain. Human, they beat each other, boom, 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 and whoever gets the better of it. So it's like me putting you into a boxing rink, and then, just saying, hey, Andrew, I'm going to put another human being in the rink with you, and I need you to try and knock him out, right? And then if I took that human being out and I put another human being, said, I need you to knock him out, you sort of kind of rely on the same 4 or 5 moves. But if I said, oh, Andrew, and I put a rhinoceros in the rink, and I said, hey, you need to knock out the rhinoceros, my guess is you're not going to be able to use the same method as you just did when you were trying to knock me out. And so I wanted to sort of put a little bit of pressure on the writer to say, here's Peter Parker, and here's now the bad guy, or at least 3 fingers, right? And now he's not going to be able to just do the same 5 punches to the face and a little bit of webbing, and he's done like he does to the other guys. You're going to have to create another method to drop the elephant, the rhino, if you will. And that was it. So besides, I think big guys look cool. It just, it to me, it was just going to give a variety of visually how Spider-Man was now going to go up against his next adversary.
I love the fact that looking back at those images, you've got this like kind of beautifully designed Spider-Man then that you've recreated the design again, and then just this pitch black kind of villain. It's a great, disparity there.
Well, the black costume was already there when I got there, right? It was a remnant from this miniseries called sort of an event book back in my day called Secret Wars. Yeah. And then the living costume came on. My understanding is that costume was actually designed by like some 12-year-old kid, right? So you can see it. It's pretty simple, right? 12-year-old kid goes, hey, black and white, super cool. And they put it on, and Jim Shooter, I might have been the writer on that book, or was at least the editor-in-chief, was fond of the costume. So by the time I got to Spider-Man, he was wearing it. Peter Parker was wearing it. I didn't have any interest in drawing it because I was coming off the Hulk, and he, all my issues, he was the gray Hulk, not the green Hulk. So I didn't get to do the traditional Hulk. And then all of a sudden I was going to go do Spider-Man. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not even in, like, I just went from a non-traditional Hulk. Now I got to do a non-traditional Spidey. And I just sort of was being a little bratish and said, no, I'm not going to draw Spider-Man because he's in a black costume. And they're like, Todd, we really want you to do it. And I'm like, no, man, I don't, because you put him in the red and blue costume, I'll draw him. And they're like, well, upper management sort of likes that black costume. And I'm like, well, why don't we just put the costume on somebody else? And then we can still have the costume and we can get Peter Parker into the red and blue classic. I don't know. Seemed like an easy solution. So I did a couple drawings of the initial drawings of Venom that, to me, again, live costume equals alien, alien equals monster, monster equals cool. I made him big. And I gave him the big teeth and the gnarliness. And they went, yeah, cool. Okay, fine. We'll take it off Peter Parker, which was my only goal, not to help create Venom. Let's just be clear. I wish I could say I was that smart. Was to just get to Peter Parker in his costume, in his classic costume. And then they gave the designs to David Michelinie, and who was the writer at the time, and said, hey, here we go. And he said, I'm going to make him Eddie Brock, which was weird because I got that information afterwards. And if I had actually known Eddie Brock was going to be the guy that got the costume, I probably would have designed something more humanoid. So again, sometimes dumb luck sort of works to your favor, that because we got the order in reverse, it was like they'd already signed off the look. We just said, hey, if Bruce Banner can turn into a big guy, then why can't Eddie Brock turn into a big guy? And so it stuck. And each time we brought Eddie Brock Venom back, we saw that the male was getting sort of bigger and bigger, and we were going, man, like maybe this guy might be a little more popular. Again, not to the degree he is today, but we thought, hey, maybe he might not just be like the Shocker, who was like a B villain. Maybe he might move up in the rogues gallery of Spider-Man. We had no idea how much he'd move up, but we got a sense of it every time he came back. Yep.
Well, the look of him has stayed, fairly true to your original look. What's the most satisfying thing of seeing that on the screen? Is there one element that you're particularly proud of, or does the whole thing just make you feel happy, or what do you think about?
Yeah. If I'm biased, I like the scale they've given him in the two movies, because again, like I said, I designed him to be way bigger than a human. That was always the thought process. So they did that. That wasn't quite true when he appeared in the third Spider-Man movie. So for me, I'm like, oh my God, there's the big guy. There's the Rhino, right? There's the big imposing, literally 800-pound gorilla that's there. And then some of the story elements that, I wasn't the writer, but the story elements that sort of came in David's Lethal Weapon or Lethal Protector series that he did with Mark Bagley as the artist, they kept some of that. So it's always fun that they sort of acknowledge us comic people, that what we're doing in the comic book actually has value outside of it. Not all the pieces, but some of the pieces. And then the tongue part, in all honesty, when I left Spider-Man, an artist named Eric Larson came on. Eric Larson, to me, is sort of the daddy of the tongue. I'm not really a big sort of tongue guy. I think it looks too much like Gene Simmons or my dog when I take him for a run around the block. It's not really imposing when somebody sticks their tongue out at me. And especially if they just wave it at me, maybe if it went and it did something fast and I go, whoa, But to me, it was sort of the combo of like a big tongue and then the big sort of gnarly teeth that was more like a bear trap, that if you went in, it was literally going to take your leg off. So just silly stuff. No.
That's awesome. Well, I think our time is up, but thank you so much for everything. It was a pleasure chatting again.
All right. You be good.
Have a good one.
All right.